There's also an impact on trade, and we know that net exports is a key component, and fiscal policy can have an indirect effect on, obviously, exports and imports. And this, again, is a little bit complex, so let's take a few seconds to look at this. This is going to involve a little bit more complexity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at three particular markets here. The market for goods and services, we've got aggregate demand, and remember this is equal to consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. So we have exports minus imports. And we have aggregate supply. Price level here, and this is GDP. We also have, and I'll draw this up on top here, we also have the market for money. We just saw this. We have loanable funds. We have interest rates. We have the supply of loanable funds and the demand of loanable funds. And we're going to have over here, let's put the demand for euros. And the supply, and this is the price of euros, or the exchange rate, the price of euros. So let's do this for the European Union, or France. So imagine the government wants to expand demand. We want to push the economy out, and so we will use fiscal policy to expand aggregate demand. The government will borrow money, let's say, boom, to push aggregate demand outwards. The government has now borrowed money, and so the demand for money in banks goes up. Government wants to borrow more money, and as a result, interest rates, which were down here, now find their way up to a higher level. So interest rates rise. Up they go. As interest rates rise, so as interest rates rise, the foreign people, let's say Americans, whatever, find that, wow, I have money. I want to invest my money. Where will I invest my money? I will invest my money in European banks because the interest rate is much higher. So I'm going to invest my dollars in European banks. But European banks don't make deposits in dollars. They say, hey, you want to put money in our bank? Buy some euros. So what's going to happen is that the investors in the United States are going to want to buy euros to invest to make this higher rate of interest. So the demand for euros rises. And as the demand for euros goes up, so does the price. So the price of a euro for an American is very high. Well, if the price of euros is high, if the price of euro, of 1 euro, goes up, so for example, it was, let's say, $5 for 1 euro, now I have to pay $10, let's say, for 1 euro. Well, what's going to happen to net exports? Back here. So let's go back over here. This means that my local people, my national habitants in France, can buy $10 with 1 euro versus $5 with 1 euro. And if I can get $10 for each 1 euro, well, I'm going to buy more American goods. Because if I'm French, over here, I'm going to look at the USA products, and I'm going to say, ooh, buy American, because it's cheap. And this is going to have an impact on imports, the big M here, which is back over here. So, summary, the demand is driven up by the government spending. To finance that, they have to borrow money, and interest rates rise. As interest rates rise, investors will want to invest their money in the French economy. And as that happens, they need to get more euros for their dollars because they're investing from the United States, and they're ready to pay more. The interest rate rises, the exchange rate changes as well, and as the exchange rate changes, we're going to encourage French people to buy American goods because the dollar for them is cheaper. So this initial increase in demand will actually be minimized be taken back a little bit because of this trend towards decreasing the amount of net exports. Imports are actually going to rise. So we have a kind of a negative effect on net exports. Other problems with fiscal policy. Fiscal policy takes time to design and execute. Fiscal policy has legs. It takes us time to see that we're in a recession. That's called a recognition lag. It takes us time to create the laws and policies. This is a legislative lag. And it takes us time to put them into place. And this is particularly true, obviously, with discretionary fiscal policy, not with automatic stabilizers. Another problem with fiscal policy is exactness. Now, this is all nice in theory, and when we draw diagrams, it makes sense, but how big is the deficit, and how much more do we need to spend, and what will be the impact, and will we get it right exactly where we want it? Well, no, we won't. It's a big estimate. Also, as we put into place fiscal policy, discretionary fiscal policy, we may not see the changes in behavior that we expect. Some people sometimes behave to permanent changes. We can forecast. If I know that the tax laws change permanently, well, I can forecast what my income will be over the next few years and adjust my consumption and savings. If there's just a temporary change, I may not modify my behavior as people expect. So that's another problem with fiscal policy. Structural changes also take time. So if we have policies that want to change things in the economy, for example, the way we spend money, tax laws, whatever, all of this takes time in the economy. And lastly, politics versus economics. Don't forget that we could be in a period of great growth. And in periods of great growth, this is a great time to collect tax revenue and lower the deficit. However, if you're growing the economy and if people are very happy and unemployment is very low, imagine a politician saying, okay, hey, look, everything's going great, let's raise taxes. And people will look at the politician and say, you're crazy. We're not going to pay higher taxes now. Everything's great. But in fact, that's probably the best time to raise tax revenue. But we won't do it because the person that ever did it would never get reelected.